And speaking of funky grooves and low-down guitar, here's the baddest cat in the land, Mr. Jim McCarty. Hello, sir.
Greg, how you doing, big guy?
Man, I'm doing pretty good. This is such a thrill having you on this show.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Man, I've been...
I was talking to Richie, 10 years or so ago. We were communicating.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Yeah, when I first mentioned it, other day, you probably thought I was talking about Dennis Robbins, I assume, right?
That's what popped into my mind at first, yeah.
Yeah. Y'all were talking because originally the Cactus reunion was going to have several different vocalists, correct?
That was the original plan. We had the tracks. The tracks started getting recorded around 2001.
Mm-hmm.
That's Randy Pratt, the man who plays harmonica on the stuff.
Yes.
And it's his recording studio. He was kind of the man responsible for there even being a Cactus. He would call me every year, and say, Carmine and Tim are going to be in town with the Fudge, next month. Why don't you come on in and you come down to the studio and we'll just get together and see what happens, And for a couple of years, I kept telling him, Randy, I don't do that sort of thing anymore. And then finally, he made me an offer I couldn't refuse. So we got together, and boom, it seemed like instead of 35 years, it was maybe 35 days. It just got right into it, and so we started recording. Every time they were coming to New York, he would fly me in, and we'd record 2 or 3 tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had the 14 tracks recorded after a couple of years, but with no vocals on them. And Carmine had a plan about, let's get some guest vocalists, people who dug the band, David Lee Roth, Paul Rogers, this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't really pan out. And I said to him, look, Jimmy Coons, who was in the studio a lot of the times when we were recording the bed tracks, I said, this guy, he can sing, and he's sitting over in the corner just writing killer lyrics. That's the thing about Jimmy I really dig. Not that he's just a really solid rock singer, rock and roll singer, but the guy writes perfect little stories that fit just great with the music of the band.
Absolutely. Now, what is his roots? Who did he play with before?
Jimmy's New York boy, and he played about 12, 13 years or so ago with Savoy Brown.
Oh,
he was with Kim Wilson for a while.
Okay. Excellent, man. That's cool. Well, I'm glad to see you guys back. And the cool thing about you, Jim, you're a blues guitarist at heart. Your heart is blues. We were playing some Mitch Ryder earlier, and that was some of my first exposure. I didn't start out hearing B.B. King and Albert King and Freddie King, and I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, and that music was out there. But I remember my brothers had the Detroit Wills records, and they were always raving about your playing, which I know I loved it too.
Yeah, well, I was kind of just learning to play the guitar then. I played drums for 15 years.
That's what I thought.
My old man was a drummer back in the big band days.
Yeah.
I played the drums for about 15 years and just started teaching myself guitar. I didn't really consider myself a guitar player until Devil with the Blue Dress went to #2 in the country. Then I said, well, I guess I'll be a guitar player.
Well, man, your solo on Jenny Take a Ride is pretty amazing too.
Yeah. Well, it was a great band.
It was.
That was one of the first white bands that could actually do respectable covers of R&B, black artists. Because Billy Mitch Ryder had a tremendous voice.
But but you guys did add your stamp to the music. I mean,
oh yeah,
amazing.
High energy band.
How did you meet Mitch Ryder?
Myself and Johnny B, one of the best drummers to ever come out of this city, one of the best rock and roll drummers, period. His old man and my old man knew each other. That's how we got together. And then we were like playing together with Earl, the bass player. And there was a place downtown Detroit called The Village.
Okay.
And we became like the house band that backed up all the black acts that would come on. And one night, Bill LeVice, Mitch Ryder, came down, and we backed him up, and there was an immediate chemistry there.
Wow.
And so we said, let's get together and see where this goes.
Well, the funny thing is, now some of the early videos, you're playing a Gretsch guitar. Is that correct?
Well, I thought there was this band in England, and the guitar player, a guy named George Harrison, was playing this Gretsch Country Gentleman, And I said, I got to get one of those. And it looks really pretty. Look at all the knobs on that thing. I got to get one of those. Yeah, on Jenny Take a Ride, we had the Gretsch Country Gentleman through a Vox Super Beetle.
Oh, okay. Then, now correct me, did you jump to a Gibson pretty quick after that?
Yeah, Michael Bloomfield told me when he was in England, Eric Clapton, he saw a guy named Eric Clapton who was playing a Les Paul, and he said, and then I heard the sound that Clapton was getting, and that's when I went over to the Paul, and that's pretty much been my guitar ever since then.
So you went to a Les Paul early on. What about like on Devil with a Blue Dress?
Well, actually, in between the Gretsch Country Gentleman and the Les Paul, there was the Gibson Birdland, the hollow body guitar. That's was why Ted Nugent played one of
That's
them
right.
for about 20-some years. He idolized Mitch Ryder and Detroit Wheels. And, the Birdland, I grew up listening to jazz more than anything else, because of my old man. And so I kind of gravitated towards the Birdland, which was a hollow body guitar. But it had the humbucking pickups, that was the thing.
Yes.
And then from there, the solid body guitar, the Les Paul, that became the mainstay. I occasionally would go to a Stratocaster, but I haven't messed with a Fender in years now. I've been playing the Paul for so long.
Well, me too. I love a Fender. I love hear other guys play them, and I've got a nice old Strat. But
if you got an old one, you're okay. The new ones, to me, I can't get anything out of them. There's nothing there.
Right. The old ones have a funk to it,
Oh yeah, they go with the single coil pickups. They're right in your face.
Oh, absolutely. What was your first Les Paul?
The first one?
Yeah.
Oh God, I don't remember. I've gone through so many of those things back in those days.
Well, the reason I ask you, there was a Guitar Player magazine when I was in high school. I had a Guitar Player magazine when you were with Buddy Miles, and there was a picture of you playing, I believe, a Gold Top.
Yeah, we played the Gold Top for a while. Then I made the mistake of having that refinished or something. I can't remember exactly what the deal was. They took it down to natural wood or something and completely destroyed the sound of the thing.
Oh.
I learned the hard way, right? Don't mess with the finish.
You're right about that, because that causes the mute.
With an old piece of wood, you got to be very careful. You put new lacquer on it and that sort of thing, you lose a lot of the sound.
Oh, I love this picture, because there's a picture of you. You're plugged into looked like a baseman head or a showman head, like an old. You had a stack of heads. I thought, well, man,
I can't.
I love it. I mean, I still got the interview, but man,
well, that's kind of like it. That's my mainstay at this point. The Les Paul to a Fender amplifier. I've got the mid '70s Pro that I use here in Detroit in the clubs. I've had it rewired to blackface specs, and then I got the '64 blackface Twim. I like the combination of the humbugging pickups and the Fender electronics. That Cactus CD is all Fender amplifiers. There's no Marshalls on that at all.
Wow.
That's the old tube driver. That's what you're hearing, is that old tube driver.
What I love about you can shift from Stone Blues, and you can go right back into that Cactus thing with no trouble at all.
Well,
that's you, though.
I've always kind of needed both of them in order to be really musically happy. I love blues music. I love playing it, but I need to rock, too. I like playing rock and roll, so I kind of need to do both of them in order to really be, happy musically. Well,
man, you're doing great. After I'll tell you, we're going to work ourselves up to the new Cactus, and we'll talk about these new releases. But I'm, being a fan of yours, I've been a fan of yours for a long time. I really, really love the way you play. A lot of us here in South Central Kentucky revere your playing, and the Headhunters and myself, we grew up listening to Mitch Ryder and your work with.
You guys rock pretty good yourself, man.
Well, thank you. We're still trying. And matter of fact, I put you a CD in the mail today. You'll have it probably in a couple of days. Hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, you guys been together a long time now, right?
Yeah,
How long has that band been together?
I started playing with Richard and Fred in 1968.
Wow.
Yeah, we played off and on, but now the Headhunters as a band have played solid together since 1986, the lineup that we got now, there was times, we would switch off and do different things, but from 1986 to now, we're the same bunch, It's
that's saying something too in this day and age. You know, same bunch of guys together all that time.
Oh yeah, man. And you know, every time we played the Detroit, I know Richard met you at the Blue Goose, I believe, maybe real briefly.
That's kind of like one of our home bases.
But every time we go to Detroit, we think, man, we need to get Jim to come out and jam with us, you know.
Hey, just give me a call.
Well, we will now.
Let me know when you're coming in. Yeah,
we will.
I got no problem. The road is a bit of a problem these days. You know.
I understand. You know, the road's rough. I'm telling you, I've got bunk back right now from being in a bunk.
We did a month of dates in September to promote the new Cactus CD, and it was rough. You know. I'm not 35 anymore. So.
It gets rougher. I know, man. I'm experiencing that. After you left Mitch Ryder, now I'm guessing around 1967, late.
That sounds about right. I think so. Yeah, Devil with the Blue Dress was when 60 or 66.
60.
Maybe was 66, something like that.
Yeah, late 66 on Sakatumi. Now,
they you know, that Bob Crew, the guy that manages the band, and that made that. I've said this before in various interviews down through the years. They made the huge mistake of thinking that Billy, the voice, was the only thing that was important. They completely failed to realize that it was a combination of the voice and that band. It was a hit-making machine.
That's right.
You know? And so we were all young. They fed Bill, you know, filled his head with, you know, we're going to make you a movie star too. It's not going to be just music, you know, all sorts of things. They wanted to bring horns in and turn the band into some sort of Las Vegas act, and I told them to go screw themselves. So I was basically, you know, that was all she wrote for me. And then that's what they did, basically. They turned it into a Vegas act with horns and that, and we all know what happened at that point.
Absolutely. No, it was never the same after that. Was one of the last sessions you did, was you on the Too Many Fish in the Sea?
Yeah, we did that one. The band was still together.
Oh, yeah, that's a funky track, man. I mean,
yeah, the band was together at that point. But, you know, it's a shame because if we could have had somebody like Andrew Lou Goldman, somebody, you know, the Stones manager at the time. In fact, when we were recording Jenny Take a Ride, a place called Bell Sound in New York, Keith Richards and Andrew came in when we were doing that track. But if we would have had somebody like that who, you know, nurtured the band and took care of it, there's no telling what that band could have done. That was a hit-making machine.
It was a funky band, man. It just kept getting better. You could just tell by each album. My brother and my cousins had those albums, and they become my possessions as I grew up, and that was some of the first guitar I heard, along with Lonnie Mack, and of course I know you like Lonnie Mack as well.
Oh man, the Wham of that Memphis, that album, everybody listens to that thing.
Yeah, how about Travis Womack? I bet you're hip to him too.
Yeah, I love Travis.
You know, that was just some great stuff. But right after, so you left Mitch Ryder, I'm guessing sometime mid-67.
67 or so, yeah, and for a brief period of time, Corky Siegel called me. I somehow or other got in touch with him. He might have been playing in Detroit.
Yeah.
He was with Jim Schwall, the Siegel Schwall Blues Band from Chicago, and Jim had some problems at the time, so Corky asked me to join the band. So for a brief period of time, I was playing with Corky Siegel, and we went out to California. We did San Francisco, Bill Graham's place out there.
Yeah, Fillmore
in San Francisco, and then we went down to L.A., the Whiskey. And at L.A., I met Buddy Miles. Buddy was just coming off of the Electric Flag thing with Michael Bloomfield, and he had signed to Mercury Records. He was putting a band together with horns, and he asked me if I'd be interested. And Buddy is a monster drummer.
Yes.
And at that point in time, the idea of the horns was intriguing to me to see what could happen with that. So I left the Siegel Schwall thing basically on the road and joined Buddy with his brand new band in L.A. And one of the cool things about that year that I spent with Buddy was that Jimi Hendrix was always popping around.
Yep.
He was talking to Buddy about putting a band together, which they eventually did. But so I had an opportunity to play with Jimmy quite a bit.
I knew you did.
We would all go over to the record plant and play till the sun came up.
That's amazing.
And the second Buddy Miles album, Hendrix produced half of it.
Yes, he did.
Which which was to be honest, was kind of a nerve-wracking experience. You're sitting out in the studio doing a guitar overdub, and Hendrix is in the control room. They'll say, "Okay, we're going to give it a go now."
Well, the cool thing is, I bet you Jimmy was a fan of yours anyway. I know he
dug Mitch Ryan Short Wheels.
Yes, he did.
So that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, what can you say? That's the greatest rock guitar player of all time.
He's the one that started. I mean, that's where
the guy that reinvented the rules of the game.
That's exactly.
You have these individuals every now and then. They're not just really good at what they do. These are people that reinvent the parameters of the game.
Yes, sir.
Whether it's Louis Armstrong inventing improvisational jazz, whether it's Robert Johnson, whether it's John Coltrane or Miles Davis. These are people that changed the landscape. And Hendrix was one of those people.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's the guy. I always say that's where the spring is, that what we do now. Of course, he took the B.B. King and the Albert King and the Freddie stuff that we all love and revere. He just took it somewhere else and made it...
he took it to Mars.
That's right. Absolutely. He sure did.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. He took the electric guitar and made it an electronic instrument and did it with soul.
Oh, God, yes.
And there hasn't been anybody since that can really match those 3 albums that he did.
No, you're right. When was the first time you saw Hendrix?
Oh, the first time, I can't really remember. It was with Buddy.
Okay.
Oh no, I'm sorry. It was I think it was
Detroit.
When did his album come out? 67.
67, yeah. Late 66, early 60s.
It was the tail end of the Mitch Ryan Short Wheels thing. I think the band was playing somewhere in Madison, Wisconsin. I remember, and Hendrix was coming in. We were just finishing our gig. Hendrix was coming in to this club, so I stayed over an extra day. I believe that might be the first time I saw him live somewhere, And they had 2 or 3 stacks of Sun amplifiers. Remember those days?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Not Marshalls, the Sun amp.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was just ridiculous what was going on. He all he had was the wah-wah and the fuzz face.
Sure.
And it was just all hell breaking loose.
Was it pretty mind-blowing?
It was beyond belief. You never heard anything like that.
That's right.
I remember the first time I saw Cream at the Grandy here in Detroit. They had there was 2 stacks of Marshalls on either side of the drums, and that's the first time I'd ever said, "What the hell is that?" And then Clapton came out to check his wah-wah pedal, right? And it was like the sky splitting open.
Yes.
It was funny, I went back to they played 2 nights. I went back the first night at the end of their first set. I think they did actually two sets back then. And this was when before the band got, burned out on each other. This is when they were really, and I said to them, "Would you guys mind if I recorded you tomorrow night?" And they said, "No, we don't." They asked me if I could get them a little medicinal, right?
Yes.
And I said, "Yeah, we could probably work that out." He said, "Well, you do that and you can record whatever you want." So I came down the next night with my Sony 2-track. I took a line out for the drums and the vocals, and I hung a microphone in the front of the stage. And 40 years later, some guy in Australia got a 3rd-generation copy of that tape and put out 2 CDs.
I got a copy of it.
There you go.
And that was you you made the initial tape.
I made the original recording, right?
Oh man, they were on fire.
That was, like I said, that was before, when they were still primed.
Oh, what?
It got to the point where Jack and Ginger couldn't stand it.
Right. Well, so Clapton, had you? I'm sure you were aware of Clapton during the Yardbirds a bit. I'm sure, right?
Yeah. In fact, I just recently met Jim McCARTY. He's the only original member. The Yardbirds played a gig here in Detroit, and they got Johnny A on guitar. Johnny's a good friend of mine.
Yeah, I know Johnny. Great guy.
He was a terrific instrumentalist. He was on the first McCarty and Friends, Volume 1. Him and Duke Robillard and Jimmy Thackeray and some other people. And Johnny invited me down to the gig. And so I took, we had pictures of Jim McCarty giving Jim McCarty a Jim McCarty CD.
That's very cool. Yeah, that's cool, Jim. I like that.
But he had given me a really nice email years ago when the first Friends CD came out. He emailed my Facebook saying how much he enjoyed the CD. But we had never really met each other until about a month ago.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Did you see Jeff Beck early on with the Yardbirds live?
I did not see. I never saw the Yardbirds with Beck. No.
Okay. How about now? You knew Michael Bloomfield. How did you know Michael Bloomfield?
I knew Michael. I knew Michael from he knew Mitch Ryan and Troy Wheels.
Sure.
You know, we were all in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Barry Goldberg was kind of who I knew was kind of the intermediate there that introduced me and Michael.
Wow.
There was a great guitar player.
Loved it, man. What a tone, right?
He was a terrific guitar player. It's a shame, you know, one of those guys that got caught on that wheel and couldn't get off.
I know. It's a shame, Jim. I mean, yeah. When I heard, of course, I missed out on the Paul Butterfield Blues Band initially. I came in on the Electric Flag. You know. Yeah,
that band, that first Butterfield album. Well, that opened a few ears.
It did, didn't it?
Yeah. In fact, Butter called me actually at one point when I was in between Mitch Ryan and Troy Wheels, and before I went with Corky. He was looking for a guitar player, and he called me and we talked for a little while, but it didn't work out.
Oh, okay.
You know, and then I guess they just went with Alvin playing guitar. They just went with the one guitar.
Sure.
He added horns. Boy, there was a harmonica player.
Yeah.
You want to talk about a guy that could play the harp.
Oh, beautiful harmonica player. And there again, Elvin came into his own during that band, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And Elvin did a great job. So you played, you went from Mitch to Buddy Miles, and you guys, you're...
Yeah, I was with Buddy for a year. I did 2 albums. And then... somewhere around that point in time, Jeff Beck came out with the Truth album and the Beck-Ola album.
Yes.
And at that point, and when I heard that, I said, this is the direction I want to go in. And Carmine and Tim, from the Vanilla Fudge, when Led Zeppelin came over here for their first time, they were the opening act for the Fudge.
Yes.
And they were blowing them off the stage. And when Carmine and Tim saw what Zeppelin was doing, they said, that's where we want to go. So originally they were supposed to get together with Beck, I believe.
They were, yeah, and Rod Stewart.
Jeff got in a serious car accident, so that was kind of derailed. And they got in touch with me because we had known each other from New York, and they got Rusty Day, who I knew from Detroit. He was a Detroit boy.
Yeah.
And there's a guy with a million lyrics.
Was he a drummer at one time himself, or did he played an instrument? He was with Ted Nugent at some point, correct?
Yeah, I think he was with the Amboy Dukes for a brief period of time. Yeah.
Yeah,
he was one of those guys that just, you start a riff or something, and you have a million lyrics, right?
Yes, sir.
Just a unending warehouse of lyrics this guy could keep coming up with.
Wow.
But, so what happened was Carmine and Tim got in touch with me. I was living in San Francisco at the time, and I went to New York, and we started jamming together and formed Cactus. And that lasted a couple years. Cactus was always kind of like I viewed it as an experiment that never really worked. You know, it was like 3 guys that were playing their asses off, but all in different rooms. You know, and occasionally the energy would gel, and when it did, it was amazing. And I never had much trouble with Carmine. Carmine is a phenomenal drummer, but Tim was kind of like, you lose the bottom end and things, and after a couple years, I'd had enough. You know, it was just too frustrating an experience. But what was really interesting was, so that's kind of how I viewed it, as an experiment that ultimately didn't work. Each album had some really nice things on it, right? I did 3 albums with the band.
That's right.
And then about 10, 15 years later, around, I don't know, the mid-'80s or whatever, I started hearing the stuff about how this band was influenced by Cactus, this band was influenced by Cactus. Then Van Halen told me that he was influenced by Cactus. And that surprised the hell out of me. This band that I had just, thought was like a failed experiment, apparently it had some sort of, lasting effect.
It did.
And then apparently it developed a cult following. There's an even bigger cult following in Europe than there is over here.
Well, we here in South Central Kentucky, we loved Cactus. I mean, first time I had a friend in Louisville, Garland Holcomb, God bless him, he's gone now, but he loaned me the first Cactus album, and I brought it back to the country down here. I stuck it on in Parchment Farm, about blew my head off. I had never heard anything like that. I mean, seriously, y'all were together on that. I mean, that was...
Yeah, that was a fast song, wasn't it? Carmine still plays the damn thing at that tempo.
Oh, God, the intro, man. I mean, that intro...
I can't even think that fast anymore, let alone move my fingers.
Oh, I never could, Jim. I always wanted to play that, but that just wasn't what I could do, man. But I love what you did on that. That's wonderful. Mose Allison.
Yeah, I'm not sure Mose envisioned it that way, but...
Well, let me ask you this. Well, in the studio, when you guys were recording, were you using Marshalls?
Oh, yeah, the Cactus stuff, the original Cactus was always Marshalls. Yeah, in fact, the first album, it was ridiculous. We were in a tiny little studio, right? And I had 2 stacks.
Oh, my God.
Right? I mean, you should use a half stack. Even a 50-watt head would have been, fine.
That's right.
I had 2 stacks working in this tiny little studio. like being in the middle of a hurricane, right?
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
What was Tim using?
He was using acoustic amplifiers. Remember those things?
Yeah.
Horn in them?
Yeah, it was 360s probably, I'm thinking.
Yeah, and he would hit that fuzz tone for a solo and all hell would break.
Oh, my God. But you got such a nice bite out of a Marshall. Were you using any kind of treble booster, or was it always the Les Paul? It was
a Les Paul through the Ampeg Scrambler.
Yeah.
That was the gizmo that gave me that Cactus sound. I was about the only one using that thing back in those days.
Yeah, I have had a couple of those, actually, and you're right, man.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, when the band got back together in 2005, 2006, that's when the reunion CD came out, Ampeg started remaking those things again. I don't know if that was purely coincidence or if they had found somebody, they learned that Cactus was back together, but they started making them again, but the damn things kept breaking. So I stopped using them and just went to what I've been using for a good while now, my old tube driver. I use the TubeWorks tube driver.
Yeah.
But I have one that's about 23, 24 years old, and the new ones don't sound quite like
No.
And I use that with the tube driver, or with the tube screamer.
Ah, okay.
And I use those two. And that's all I use going into the Fender amplifier.
Well, Jim, I had an original Scrambler a few years ago. Then I did find a reissue, and the reissues were really true to the old ones. They sounded really good, and
they didn't seem to last.
No, I didn't keep it long enough to find out. But the funny, had this conversation with Ronnie Montrose. I'm sure you knew Ronnie, and he used one on the first Montrose album. And the funny thing about the Scrambler, when you would roll the bass back, the thing would just come alive.
Yeah, well, it wasn't a fuzz tone.
Yeah.
It was more like a harmonic overdrive unit.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a couple things on the new Cactus CD.
Yes, sir.
I kind of have to have at least a couple tracks that have that signature sound.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't have a Scrambler, so I used a Line 6 called the Octave Fuzz, which gets fairly close to the old Scrambler sound, that harmonic kind of overdrive thing. I use that on the title track, Black Dawn, and the Boogie thing.
Matter of fact, we're going to play it. We're going to play Black Dawn here in a little bit. I'm looking where have I done with it? The Boogie. Let's see which one. Black Dawn, Mama Bring It Home, Dynamite, Juggernaut, Headed for a Fall, The Last Goodbye, Walk a Mile. Then there's 2 tracks from the old band. Yeah,
the last 2 tracks. I don't know where Carmine dug these up at. I don't even remember recording them. But especially the slow blues, the C70 blues. It's nice to hear Rusty singing again, too.
Absolutely.
But now that's the full-bore Scrambler on that one. That's the real Scrambler, and that one's wide open.
Man, what a band. So 3 albums. Of course, you did Cactus, One Way or Another, then Restrictions.
And the Restrictions album. The Restrictions album would be the best sounding of the 3, I would think, and sonically speaking, in terms of, recording sound. But by that point in time, I had, decided to leave the band. And I told the producer, I said, I want to try and get a minimal amount of overdubs here. Let's just record the band straight up live in the studio, which is kind of what we did. There's not all that many overdubs on it.
Oh, okay. So you knew you were leaving for sure.
Yeah, and that was the album that had Evil on it.
Oh yeah, that
became like one of the signature tracks for the band.
That's a great song, man. I mean, I heard that Tim or somebody was listening to the Muddy Waters Electric Mud.
That's where that lick came from.
Electric Mud.
Yeah, it might have been the Electric Mud thing. And then we just did our own version of it.
Well, you did a great job on it. You could have made an original out of it, actually, you know.
Yeah.
But, hey, you made it your own song. It's wonderful. So after that, what did you do?
When I left Cactus, I was really frustrated.
Sure.
You know, like I said, there was too much, you know, banging heads together, not enough playing together as a group. And so we did, with the band played all over. We did the Isle of Wight, we did the Atlanta Pop Festival. Mm-hmm. You know, the band played a lot. So I came back to Detroit, and I wanted to get back to, like, playing more straight-ahead rock and roll.
Sure.
And I got together with Johnny B., the original drummer, and Mitch Ryder and Troy Wills, and we put the Rockets together. And the Rockets were together for about 10 years, did 6 albums on 3 or 4 different labels. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those bands. It was a great little rock and roll band.
Yep.
And B was the main songwriter in the band. He was a terrific songwriter.
Yeah.
But it was one of those bands that could never, for some reason, never get the big breakthrough, you know, the national hit to put you on the next level.
You came close with Oh Well.
Yeah, Oh Well was the biggest single that the band ever had. That got a lot of airplay. But we never really had the one that broke us through. So after about 10 years, the band said its goodbye. We used to play the DTE Energy Theater out here in Detroit. Sure. Every summer. We do a couple nights. And at that point in time, when the Rockets ended, I had made a conscious decision. At that point, I want to play blues.
Right.
I want to play the music that's you know, in my heart. Mm-hmm. So I joined the Detroit Blues Band. Mm-hmm. And played with them for about 8 years, and then I put the group that I have together today, JIM McCARTY and Mystery Train.
Yes.
Mystery Train is my blues band here in Detroit, and we've got some live CDs out.
I've got some Mystery Train at home. I've had friends.
That's on the new McCARTY and Friends. Mm-hmm. There's 2 tracks. Most of those tracks, it's me sitting in with that band. You know, whether it's Tommy Castro, Joe Louis Walker, or Coco Montoya. But there's 2 tracks where it's my band, where it's Mystery Train, and the guest artist is sitting in with us. You know,
yes.
The Johnny Bassett track, which I just love.
Yes.
Johnny was just one of Detroit's best blues singers and guitar players. He's gone now.
Oh,
and then the boogie track after that, that's Mystery Train with my son Dylan playing the drums.
Oh, okay. Wow, man.
Yeah, he's like my man. I got like 3 or 4 drummers that revolve with that band, but Dylan is the main drummer.
Wow, how cool is that, man?
Yeah, it's very cool. He's a great drummer.
So you made a decision to go back to playing blues.
I wanted to play blues, yeah, you know, and that's what I've been doing. And then the Cactus thing started happening in terms of, you know, recording some tracks here and there. I had no idea really what's going to become of this. But then finally, when Jimmy got the vocals on, there was a label in Sweden that Carmine was talking to, and I think he was talking about something about Vanilla Fudge at the time, but the guy from the Swedish record company asked him, you know, anything happening with Cactus? Carmine said, well, as a matter of fact, we've got 14 tracks here in the can. So they put that out. That was the Cactus 5 reunion CD.
Yeah, right.
And it was hilarious because the album got tremendous reviews, right? The critics everywhere, the album got amazing reviews. And I remember the original band back in '77. That band got butchered by the critics, man. Oh man, it just ripped to shreds.
What?
And now all of a sudden, you know,
what didn't
one of the best bands of the '70s. Yeah, these guys are one of my favorite bands.
You were great, man. You're a great band. You know, I mean.
But well, the new CD, it was a lot more controlled than the original. That was the thing about the original band. The energy level was unbelievable, but it would get a little, you know, off the rails from time to time.
Oh, I bet you'd almost.
Now you know, now the control is there, especially with the new CD. The thing I really enjoy about the new CD is that this is the first time now that we have a CD that actually captures the balls of the band sonically. The Cactus 5 reunion CD, some terrific playing on it, but it left a little bit to be desired sound-wise, you know what I mean? And the drums were a little too loud on some of the tracks. This CD, the Black Dawn CD, I spent 10 months on the phone with the engineer in New York. We mixed this thing over the phone, basically. And it was a very tedious affair, but we've got something for the first time that captures what the band can do, you know. The playing has always been there, but now we've got a CD with a sound matches the playing. And then he's got those 2 tracks that he found from the original band, so it's a nice little program.
I think so, too.
There's no filler on this thing. Every track has got something to say.
That's very cool. And
I am of the opinion, I tell everybody that's heard this or that gets a copy of this, I am of the opinion that I don't know of anybody, mine and Carmine's age, that's doing this sort of thing.
Oh no, you guys, you're doing it, man. You're playing so good.
Carmine is just a physical phenomenon. The guy's 1 year younger than me. He's 70 years old, and he's just playing his ass off.
We ran into him in Sweden last year, or this year. Yeah, he's out there doing it. Yeah, this is a great album, and I'm just so proud that you're just still doing what you do, that you've always done. You haven't changed, you know, at all. Your blues playing is, when you play blues, it's become more defined, you know. If that makes sense to you, we grow up as we play, you know.
Yeah, as you get older, you know, what usually happens, the equation kind of works. You get older, you'll lose a little bit of the energy. You gain, the notes have more weight on them.
There you go. That's exactly right. Who, before I get into this Cactus, a track from Cactus, who were your big influences, say, around? Well, obviously, you like George Harrison, of course, you know, and you like the Beatles.
Yeah, the Beatles more for songwriting and that.
Sure.
As far as guitar influences, Bloomfield.
Yep.
Albert, B.B. If I had to pick one, if I had to pick one guy, it would be B.B. King.
Yeah.
It would be B.B.
What's your favorite B.B. King album? What's your favorite B.B.?
I still have the first album I ever bought with my own money when I was about 13. I started teaching myself guitar when I was about 14 years old. But I bought the B.B. King album in a hardware store for $1.49 called My Kind of Blues.
Oh, I know that. That's one of my favorites.
And yeah, I wish I knew who the piano player on that was, because that guy is just unbelievable.
Is it Lloyd Glenn?
I don't know.
I think it's Lloyd Glenn. It was on Kent Records. It's got Driving Wheel.
Exactly. I still have the album, and that's the album that I basically started teaching myself to play guitar to. Albert had like the balls, but B.B. made you cry. You know?
Yes.
And B.B. was the one. If I had to pick one, I mean, there were so many. Eric Clapton, Hendrix. Hendrix, you know, he turned everybody's head around.
Oh yeah.
But if I had to pick, I mean, there's so many. Howlin' Wolf's guitar player, Hubert Sumlin.
Yeah, Sumlin was great. Yes. Oh, man.
There was an album, Charlie Musselwhite's first album, a thing called Stand Back. Harvey Mandel, the guitar he played on that was unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Harvey. That's right, man.
But, yeah, those are the guys. There's so many of them. I mean, and then like at home, I listen to more jazz than I do blues.
Wow.
I listen to all the Blue Note stuff, you know.
Sure.
Kenny Burrell, Wes Montgomery, Grant Green.
Oh,
those are the big three for me for jazz guitar.
Man.
There's a lot of influences. Kenny Burrell, he's from Detroit. I've met Kenny, you know, and Kenny, with Wes Montgomery gone, Kenny is the greatest living jazz guitar.
Oh, he's amazing. Did you like Johnny Smith?
I like Johnny, but it wasn't the same. There was Tal Farlow, those guys, they were great at what they did, but Wes Montgomery was the greatest jazz guitar.
He really could swing, couldn't he?
Wes was the guy. If Wes gone, Kenny would be the man. But Grant Green, nobody was ever any funkier than Grant Green.
You're right. He's great. I've got some of his stuff. It's amazing.
Man,
it's just wonderful stuff.
There's a lot of influences, and then I just kind of, you know, put them all together, and that's it. Any musician that's worth his salt, what you do is you take, you know, as you're learning, you have people that move you, and those are your influences. And then a point is supposed to be reached if you're a real artist, where those influences get pushed into the background, so to speak, and now you come out. Your personality
that's
comes
right.
out. And it was the biggest compliment I can get from anyone is when they tell me, when I listen to you, it sounds like you.
I know who you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
every time I know it. Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Your vibrato, your vibrato is got its own timbre. You know, I can always tell your phrasing, and you know, it's your DNA is on each note. You know,
yeah, you want to have your own identity.
Mm-hmm.
It really doesn't do you all that much.
No.
It doesn't make much difference how good you can play B.B. King, or
That's
how
right.
good you can play Albert King, or if you're a Stevie Ray Vaughan clone. You know.
Yeah.
Your own personality is what has to.
And that's eventually what happens. You know, when you stay with
for
it.
every great artist, you know, that's what you hear when you hear that artist. Eric Clapton had countless influences.
Oh yeah.
But he's Eric.
That's right. And one thing I want to reiterate for people that are coming up learning to play blues, that album that you mentioned, My Kind of Blues, that is one to seek out. It's got Walking Dr. Bill.
It might be a little rough to find. Well, that's one of the problems, too. I mean, we're talking now in 2000.
It's reissued on CD.
2017. It's not the same as it was like back in the 60s or even the 80s when I think you had the last blues revival, if you could call it, what Stevie Ray Vaughan was responsible for.
Yeah.
But it seems like as each decade goes by, the blues influence gets more and more diluted in rock and roll.
Yep.
And it's kind of a shame because that's the root.
That's true. But you can actually get that album on CD. I've got two copies of it. Yeah, with bonus tracks. It's got.
You got to send me a CD of it.
I will. I absolutely will. I will. It's got Walking Dr. Bill on it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Driving Wheel.
You done lost your good thing now.
Yeah. Da 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 da. Oh yeah.
That whole album. Is
I'll make you a good copy. As a matter of fact, I'll even find you for Christmas. I'll even find you the real thing. How about that?
Beautiful, beautiful.
And another album I love by B.B. King is called Blues is King, which was recorded live in Chicago. Did you ever hear that one?
Was that at a prison or something?
No, that's oh God, no, it wasn't a it was at a club in Chicago. Of course, everybody knows Live at the Regal. You know, that's a great album. You know?
Yeah, that would be the definitive one if you had to pick.
I'll make you a couple things, man. I think you'll dig them.
I've got the Live at the Regal album.
Yeah, okay.
Another great one is Live and Well.
Oh God,
half of it was live with his band, then the other half was the studio.
That is a great album. He was just, he was playing with so much confidence. You know, he was just amazing stuff, man.
Yeah, they put him in a different setting there, but he was comfortable enough to where he could do his thing.
Oh God, the vibrato.
Well, that's what we were talking about, the identity. You can take one note and you know that's B. You know.
Hey, 1 second here. Let me do something I forgot to do real quick. Hang on.
Okay.
Good thing. It's the Lowdown on WDNX Bowling Green, D93.
Talking to Jim McCARTY. And this is great, Jim. I mean, this is so wonderful talking to you and getting to know you musically. And, you know, I've known you musically for years.
Well, it's my pleasure, man. You know, and also congratulations on the 15 years. I think you had your anniversary last week, right?
Oh, you talking about the Headhunters?
No, your radio show.
Oh, the radio show. Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Oh, I was getting ready to say the Headhunters.
You did your 15-year anniversary.
I
right?
did, yes, sir. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've been doing this 15 years here. I just, I love blues. I love blues-based music, and it gives me a chance to delve into it and learn stuff.
We need more guys like you.
Oh, yeah, man. It's fun. I've been doing it for a while, man, and it's still, hey, I'm a work in progress. I'm still trying to figure it all out myself, you know? But
it's never ending.
No, it is.
You're always learning.
Hey, and before we jump into this cactus, you had an old Sunburst 50s Les Paul, or two maybe, but you had
a 59 Cherry Sunburst.
God, I see you.
Stolen from me when I moved back to Detroit to put the Rockets together. I had that and a 1954 Stratocaster.
Oh God.
Yeah, both those guitars were taken out of my house a couple months after I moved back to Detroit.
It seemed like the Les Paul.
Welcome to Detroit.
No, man. Did you have good pictures of it?
I don't know. I don't bother with it. I've got the 94 standard, and the 90 with the standard's 93, and the custom is a 94. That's what I deal with.
Oh, okay. Well,
because once the guitar gets to be about 10 years old, like Keith Richards,
you're right.
It takes about 10 years for the guitar to develop some character.
No, you're right. You're exactly right.
You know, so both my Pauls are 20-some years old at this point, and they do the job.
That's the truth. And you guys listen in tonight, just hang on to those new guitars that you're playing, because they will turn into...
I've got 2 or 3 Paul Reed Smiths that Paul's given me down through the years, too. And there's this one prototype. It was the first one he ran off of his short scale neck series about 6 or 7 years ago. He gave it to me. And this guitar is it's a kind of a different animal than a Paul, but it's got a really interesting sound to it. Really thick.
Yeah, they're a different animal. They're great new guitars. They really are. Well, listen, I'm gonna play some Cactus, and I thank you for calling in. I've enjoyed this immensely, and I'll burn you some. I'll burn you that BB King, and I'll even try.
Please, I'd love to have that on CD.
Yes, sir. And now the new Cactus can be ordered your website, which should be cactus.com, or let me see here if I can.
Yeah, to tell you the truth, I'm not sure what that is. Carmine or Bruce. Bruce, the guy who books the band, kind of takes care of that. But yeah, you got the CD, right?
I've got it. Yes,
so
I'll find it, and I'll tell everybody in a minute. But we're going.
Yeah, just tell the folks where they got to go to get it. Cactus Rocks or something like that is the website. I can't remember.
I believe it is cactusrocks.com. Let me look. I'm looking right now trying to find the information, but I will find it before I go off the air, and I'll plug. And of course, you could be found on Facebook.
Yeah, you're on McCarty3@gmail.com.
Okay, man. Well, I'll be in touch with you. All right. I thank you so much for being so generous with your time.
My pleasure, man. I appreciate the fact that you're doing your show.
Well,
more guys like you.
Well, we're appreciate you, because you're very forthcoming with the information that you're passing on. We've been learning from you for a long time, man, and loving what you do.
I appreciate that. Say hello to the boys in the band for me.
I will, my friend. God bless you, and thanks, Sally, for all the, for relaying all the information, all of that.
All right, buddy.
All right. See you, Jim.
Take it easy.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, it's Jim McCarty.